What is up, everyone? I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And we are Stay Hot, presented to you by our good friends over at Little Caesars. We're staying hot, they're staying ready with hot and ready pizza, ready for you all NFL season long. And we're going to be talking about week 3. Had some very exciting games for some people. For others, you're having a very tragic Sunday night and a very awful Monday, I can imagine. But before we get into those games, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. This was a strange week in the NFL. I feel like there were a lot of blowouts. I feel like there were a lot of it's over moments for several fan bases. Like the Bears lost by 31. The Broncos lost by 50. The Commanders lost by 34. The Jets looked terrible. The Titans lost by 3 scores.
Yeah.
The Giants lost by 3 scores. I feel like the average margin of victory this week was like pretty huge.
It's interesting. There's a certain other football league they say does that,
I knew
and
it.
this doesn't happen in the NFL. And not the best NFL weekend whatsoever.
No, I have seen better. I got college football overtime pilled this weekend, though. I was watching it and I was like,
I'd love to talk about that for a second. I agree.
Go for it.
Yeah, it is better. It is better. I got to stop being an old man and admit to myself that the dueling.
Here's where they get you. Every time that it's brought up in connection with a game that just happened. And the people who disagree with it, it's always like, well, that team could have gone and won anyway. Oh, so the Bills, it's not their fault. Like, just win in the regular overtime rules. That's fair. Bills lost in that Chiefs playoff game, fair and square. However, can we admit that there is a more fun, more fair overtime option that another league uses readily available?
We can admit it. But yeah. Matt, speaking of college, congrats on the big Ohio State win. I gotta say, I was also pumped because Chip Trayanum was the guy who scored. ASU transfer. I watched him run when I was in college. I actually slightly preferred Trayanum over Rashad White. That was my hot ASU football take. I really, really love Chip Trayanum. When he transferred to Ohio State, I was sad because I thought we'd never see him play again because he was buried on the depth chart.
Yeah.
But there he was making the game-winning play.
I could not believe that Notre Dame had 10 players on the field on back-to-back plays on the goal line.
Bad.
That's really rough.
That was an awesome game, man. I was freaking out. Let me tell you something, man. I thought it was totally over. This is a very different Ohio State team. They needed one of these wins where it's like it seems like they're totally out of it and then they just find the way anyway. They always got those under Urban. They never get them under Day. They get one of those, and it's like they had that big 4th and 1 stop where Styles comes in and gets them, and Notre Dame decides to pass, and they get the ball back, and there's a 3rd and 19, and they pick it up. Like, the aura of Ohio State is back, man. This is the team I know. And the defense is legit, and it's wide open this year. So I'm very excited. I'm super excited to go to the Penn State game. It was an awesome win. I was happy from my core.
Are you going to Ohio State, Penn State? I'm thinking about going to that game.
Yeah, I'm going.
Hold on. If I get tickets.
I got the tickets.
I'm going to Colorado USC next week. I'm substantially less hyped than I was a week ago about it.
Yeah.
That's
tough.
That's all right. I'll see Caleb.
Well, there's going to be 100 points put up in that game. Don't worry too much. But.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. But anyway, enough about college and enough about pushing Chip Trayanum agendas or Ohio State agendas.
Yeah. The agenda we should push is that Miami football should be ranked.
What Miami are you talking about here?
Miami of Ohio.
Okay. I thought we were transitioning into our first NFL game.
I mean, we can do that too. The Dolphins scored a few points today. No, they had 8 touchdowns between Devon Achane and who's the other running back?
Mostert.
It was Achane and it was
Mostert.
Mostert. Yeah. They cooked, man. It was quite the performance from the offense of Miami, but it pales in comparison to how bad of a defensive performance it was from the Broncos. And Matt, why are you laughing?
Come on, man. You know I'm laughing. I'm not hating.
Look,
I'm not even saying you're wrong.
I'm not hating. I'm not hating either, because the Dolphins' offense has been good most weeks since Mike McDaniel took over. Correct? They don't put up 70 all the time.
No, 70 is obvious. Look, you let up 8 rushing touchdowns. That's just plain not good. No.
Look, the Dolphins, they hit the crossing routes. They got things blocked up well. The sheer incompetence of the Broncos. I mean, allowing 70, we might never ever see it again. Like, right. I think it is fair to say that it's a little bit worse for the defense than anything else. Like, allowing 70, like, what are you telling to the team after the game, man?
I mean, what did Sean Payton say in the press conference? He said it's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. And I wish I was more negative about the Broncos defense, like vocally, because all the signs were there versus Washington. You watch my Howell breakdown. I think I point out that he's like staring on his big plays. He's like literally staring things down, and they would just come open. And they were able to move the ball really, really effectively with Brian Robinson, like open up huge holes. And then the week before, the Raiders' offensive line was moving the Broncos around. And then the week after that, the Raiders' offense gets their teeth kicked in by Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones, and they finish with, -2 rushing yards for Josh Jacobs. Look at how Washington did this week, trying Sam Howell ball, just holding on to it as long as possible versus an actual good defense. It goes terribly. Like, dude, the warning signs were there that this Broncos defense was garbage. And I'm mainly just kicking myself for not locking Miami last week. I don't think any of us did, but
no, all of our locks. Once again, we failed on the locks. We're not off to a great start, but
no,
we can assure you that the next lock picks later this week will be perfect. But yeah, even a bad defense versus a great offense. 70? Like, there is no level of like great job or terrible job that does this justice. That's where I'm just like lost. It's like
the only words that describe it's like a franchise hitting their peak and like a franchise hitting their rock bottom at the same time. Like, that's how 70 happens. The Broncos defense, the front seven,
it's just a disaster. How 70 happens is when Miami just gets you mixed up in the run every single play.
Yeah.
Because if you could even stop the run a little bit, eventually, Miami is going to stop trying to throw deep or whatever. And that'll sort of slow things down. But it just didn't, because, oh my God, I mean, the Broncos, it looked like an FCS team.
Tua didn't need to complete a pass today. Obviously, he had a great day. Like, he was 23 for 26. Everything he hit was on time. It was accurate. It was a great performance from him. But they would have won this game without him attempting a pass. That's how bad the front seven was. Like, there is no doubt in my mind that there was absolutely no possible way for victory with the front seven playing like they did. The linebackers were going the wrong direction every single play.
Mm-hmm.
No one took on contact. Like, no one put their shoulder down to constrict space at the second level. Like, it was always trying to go around or go under blocks or just get blown up. Like, those were your two options. When they tried to stack, they wouldn't do it with their momentum heading into the offensive linemen. They would like back up to try to mitigate contact or like mitigate the impact as much as they could. And that just huge holes everywhere. Zach Allen was in pass rush mode the whole week. Like, he's just like getting upfield like each and every play which prevented him from giving you any kind of backside pursuit because he's like going after Tua, even though Tua didn't really take any like straight dropbacks the entire game. Guys are getting blown out of the hole. They've got 2 speed rushers like Cooper and Benito. Like they can threaten you around the arc, but that just didn't come into play today. And when they were trying to contain, they just got covered up by the linemen and were invisible. Like the safeties couldn't change direction with Jonathan Simmons out. They couldn't take angles. Anytime they took a bad angle, they couldn't recover because A-Chain and Mostert were so much faster. Like they looked like non-NFL athletes. Even Surtain had a bad game. Like
interesting.
That's my
very interesting is what I have to say about that. Robbie Chosen torched him. We all saw it. That's I don't even know what you say about that. If you've got Robbie Chosen just cooking Surtain for a touchdown from Mike White, it's like
it's not your
some
day.
days it's just not your day. Maybe
it's not your day. You know what I'm interested to see? The yards before contact stat come out for this game.
It's got to be.
That's good.
How many rushing yards did they have? Did they like get contacted?
They had 350 rushing yards.
I'm guessing at least 200 yards before contact. Like no joke. Because a lot of it was outside the tackles, like out on the perimeter, where like you couldn't even break an arm tackle, like in the A gap. It was just creating fast flow one way and then just a throw the other, and no one could do anything about it. And in Denver, and like Vance Joseph gets a lot of blame, like, and he should probably be fired because obviously the defense isn't ready to play defense. So
is this game a fireable offense?
Yeah, it is a fireable offense. Bad vibes of firing a head coach and then bringing him back. I don't know if I would ever do that. Not saying that that's why this happened, but I'm just concerned about the Broncos coaching staff in general. Like Sean Payton was a great coach in New Orleans, but he took a year off and he came back to the richest ownership group in the league. Not a desirable coaching position outside of the fact that you'd get paid, because the quarterback situation was bad and there just didn't seem to be a high ceiling here, but he took the job for money. And because he lost his fastball, like, does he have?
Dude, I think the team is just horrible. I don't know how much I blame Peyton. I mean, what is the fastball that saves you in this game? Nothing. Like your guys are just like they're getting turned around and they're not as fast as the other dudes. I'm afraid that kills you. As simple as that. I mean, oh my God, dude. It really the only way to describe it is like an FCS team. The way the defensive line was getting manhandled, I mean, you just don't see that in competitive NFL games all that often. It looks like an FCS team. My question about this is: do you agree or disagree with Mike McDaniel not going for the record?
I disagree.
I think so too.
I would go for the record.
I would go
absolutely.
For the record, we're not talking about the difference between having 42 and 49 points. We're talking about the record points in the NFL. At the end of the day, like, these are pros. If you don't like them scoring, don't let them in the end zone, right?
Yeah.
I would have gone for it.
And it's not, and like they were in field goal range and they took the knee. I don't know. I
the
think
record's
there
what,
is
73?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some alpha mentality of like, well, everyone were to go on for the record. We're above it. Like, we're taking a knee. We already put them 70.
Wasn't his
maybe
justification like? I think wasn't it something like, well, this is our standard. It's I don't. It's like
that's stupid. He should have gone for the record. I would have kept.
I would have gone for the record
throwing.
too. I don't know.
They didn't even need, bro. Mike White threw the touchdown to.
Yeah, I would have.
To Robbie
Tua would have had 600 yards under me. Let me tell you.
Then they were so close to the yardage record too. I get pulling the starters. Obviously, you don't want Tua in there longer than he has to be because right now everything is clicking, everything is rolling. The only thing that could stop you is it seems like right now is injury.
Oh, yeah.
So like taking the starters out, even though they were on pace to score 70, maybe more with this. Well, I probably not maybe more with the starters because the backups couldn't have been more
like,
efficient.
how could you do any better?
Right,
Yeah,
they were just on a move.
drive.
Like either the starters hit that or they don't. So this probably the same result with the starters. I get pulling them, but yeah, they were in field goal range. Like you earned it. Like you're in field goal range. Like it's okay to kick the field goal and
at least tie it.
You never know when points could be involved in terms of tiebreakers for the playoffs.
I don't think they're going to be worried about that.
Why not?
No one's going to score 70 on this team. Like, I guess another team could in theory.
It's a game of inches.
I guess, yeah. Now the real question
Chiefs
is,
won by 31 today too.
It's true. Well, speaking of the team the Chiefs beat, the Bears, they play the Broncos next week.
Ooh, that's gonna be a good one.
We are. So, I think we're in agreement that these are probably the two worst teams in football right now. Right, Chicago and Denver.
I wouldn't say that. There's a lot of competition.
Well, the Cardinals won today, so I think they're out of it. But
I think the Panthers would beat. I think it is fair to say that they're the worst too. Who's worse than them?
Probably the Panthers, man.
Chargers would find a way to lose.
Probably the Panthers would lose to them, I think.
Chargers find a way to lose to the Bears and the Broncos. The Chargers might lose one to the Broncos. They might drop one. But yeah, and I mean these two teams are terrible, and they're going to play in a 1:00 window on CBS. I'm sure this will be the game of the week.
These are the types of days that my Wednesday night football podcast is made for. The worst game of the week breakdowns. This is the holy grail of bad
so is this going
to
to be low scoring bad or high scoring bad? Both defenses are terrible.
I would say both offenses are better than their defenses. As bad as that is for the Bears, like the Bears are truly dead last in every defensive metric since Eberflus was hired. They're also probably dead last in every offensive metric, but I feel like they were at least good at running the football last year and have maybe the potential to be. So I would say it's not going to be.
They can run against this Denver team, that's for sure.
Anyone can, man. Anyone can. I could have gotten a couple yards versus Denver.
The Twitter challenge of how many yards could you get in an NFL game?
Dude, I totally could have gotten a couple today. I definitely could have.
How many yards are you getting against the Broncos defense? This is the real question.
I think I could have picked up a first down, like 5. I think I'm getting 4 carries, 10 yards, and then a hit is knocking me out of the game. I think that I slid for 3 times, and then there's someone I didn't see on the 4th carry that lights me up.
I think I'm going to try my hardest to get 4 yards a carry.
You got a chance at it.
I got a chance at it. Couldn't hurt. So, yeah, that game was interesting to say the least.
It was.
But we saw Stroud again, and he looked awesome.
He does look awesome. He's on a pretty historic run here. They had the graphic, the list of names, most passing yards through 3 weeks.
Who was one?
It was Cam Newton by a substantial distance. And then it was Justin Herbert, and then it was CJ Stroud, and then it was Patrick Mahomes. It's not a bad list.
Not bad company.
Not a bad list at all to be a part of. And I think he also broke the record for most consecutive throws to start a career without an interception. He's been totally money. I mean, the anticipation, the accuracy, and the aggressiveness. He looks like one of the top pocket passers in the league right now. Like, seriously, like he's at the top of all of these stats, and he's doing it behind an extremely banged up offensive line with wide receivers that were not proven at all going into the year. And they've been able to move the ball. And against a decent Jacksonville defense, I feel like. And I just can't say enough about Stroud's ability as a pocket passer, really, like getting through all 3, 4, 5 reads. The placement is on point every time. Like, and he's hanging in the pocket. Like there's not like, what more do you want? The drive right before halftime impressed me a lot. I know I made a video about it on TikTok, but if you haven't watched it, the throws Stroud was making were great timing, great anticipation. He had kind of an out and in that the tight end was running a little bit of a horizontal double move. I don't know exactly what you'd call this route. I'm sure it's called a bunch of different things, but faked it out, broke back in. Stroud knew the middle of the field was open. He was okay with kind of staring down that route because he knew it would come open. And he was able to kind of drift around the pocket a little bit, make a nice throw like that hit his target in the face mask while kind of fading away, wasn't really able to step into it. I thought that displayed some really nice arm talent from him. And just the ability to like know what's open and kind of drift away from pressure and hit it. Immediately after that, it's 3rd down and 1. He sees the hole in the defense, hits the top of his drop, immediately starts to get the ball out before the receiver starts to break, like hits him on the back shoulder away from the linebacker closing in. Like just really, really high level accuracy and high level just distribution. And that's exactly what you're looking for. Yeah.
He distributes the ball.
He does distribute the ball.
Yeah, it's you know what makes somebody who distributes the ball is really that placement, so where it feels like a handoff when they get it where they want to be. I'm really, really excited about CJ Stroud's aggressiveness, particularly throwing into tight windows and over the middle of the field. I feel like if you had to have like sort of a concern about Ohio State quarterbacks coming into the NFL, one of them would be that they're playing with super high-level guys and they're going up against Big Ten talent. And are they going to be able to like make that transition into now you need to throw into tight windows and now you don't just have way better players than everybody else? And the answer for CJ is that A, he showed some of that at Ohio State, and B, yes, he's able to a lot. I don't think it's been perfect for him, and we talked about him recently and about how maybe he's still not the greatest under pressure as of right now, but we're talking about a guy who's played 3 games, and it would be ridiculous to hold him to a standard like that, especially since the Texans' offensive line is incredibly banged up and not that good right now.
And so they haven't been able to lean on the run at all. Like it's been all CJ. It's like all on his arm. And he had a ball. It was on a slant, and the defender was covering it perfectly. And he kind of walled off this slant. Slant runs by him. He flips his hips. And when he flips his hips to start running horizontally, he looks at the quarterback and the ball has just whizzed by his face mask and hit the wide receiver in the hands against tight coverage. And it's like, if you're a defender in that situation, you got to be thinking, man, I covered this perfectly. I was running right with him. And then to turn around and to see that ball go right by your face mask and hit that slant in the hands, you've got to be like, whoa, this quarterback is on top of it. And that's exactly what CJ Stroud has been. He's been really tough. He's been really, really impressive. He has, like I said, he looks like one of the top pocket passers in the league. Just year one, he looks like Dak. He looks like Geno. Like I feel like those were 2 comps that people gave as kind of his high end, and he looks well on his way to hitting those right now.
Yeah. And the Texans did a good job of building this team out as it stands right now. I mean, Tank Dell looks really good. Nico Collins has had his breakout year. Robert Woods is still a very solid veteran piece. I don't think Stroud's working with insane weapons, but they did a good job putting it together. And then Jordan and Schultz.
And they hired someone from San Francisco.
And they hired someone from San Francisco.
That always helps.
That always helps. That always helps. I love the efficiency charts right now. If you look at the top of them, it's Purdy, Tua, and Love. I don't know if that's still going to be the same after this week, but it's probably going to be those three near the top of all of the efficiency metrics, and Stafford's probably going to get up there too, even though he has no weapons because of McVay and because of himself, obviously, and all these quarterbacks
Stafford's
because of themselves to some extent. But you got to hire these. All the 49ers Shanahan tree hires age well, and all the hires from any other tree seem to like age poorly. Like Frank Reich was a good offensive mind, or we thought he was, but he wasn't from the Shanahan tree, so it doesn't appear to be working.
No,
although their offensive coordinator came from LA, so that's not entirely true.
So,
yeah,
man. Also, Will Anderson.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Will Anderson's a beast.
Yes.
D'Amico Ryans is him, I think. I think that their pass rush plans and their stunts and their games and how they're able to pin a specific offensive lineman's attention and then sneak like Will Anderson the other way. Like it's Jim Schwartz-esque. Like he seems to be at that level of a pass rush designer. San Francisco's pass rush has gotten worse statistically from last year, even though the talent has gotten better. And it's not that is a bad defense at all, but I think that they have been feeling the loss of D'Amico and his pass rush ideas. And they kicked Jacksonville's teeth in today. Not a good day from the Jacksonville offense. The front was especially atrocious. And the trenches on both sides for Jacksonville has been bad. Trayvon Walker, man, I just don't know if he's got that creativity in him. He looks the part. He's obviously a Greek god. I thought he had a good performance week 1, had some nice bull rushes, was able to bend around the edge a little bit. But, man, when they ask him to ask, that he just doesn't activate his hands. And it's like there's that feel for doing that creativity that never really showed at Georgia and hasn't really showed in the NFL at all. He's just kind of this brute strength guy. And I just think that that's the way that he's wired. And that's not good for a number 1 overall pick. Not that there were a ton of great options at the top of that draft, but Gardner was there.
There's 2 great options I can think of. Maybe
two Ohio players.
I think if Walker doesn't turn out to be the player that they want him to be, it's a lesson in not shoehorning yourself into trying to take one of 4 positions with the first overall pick. Sorry if it's a cornerback or a receiver, both of which are actually positions of great value and would be perfectly fine to be picked that high.
Just take the best player.
Just take the best guy pretty much. I mean, I get if it's a running back. I get if it's maybe even like, like a nose tag. It's like, okay, sure. But wide receiver is second most important position. And the guys who stop him are pretty important too. And this Jacksonville team is just not very well built out, really, as it stands right now. Your offensive line just can't be this terrible, man.
Yeah. They whiffed on a couple big contracts in the middle. And I think that their wide receiving core still needs work. Like, I still see Jamal Agnew getting crucial targets. And I get that they brought in Ridley, and I get that they have Christian Kirk, and I get that they have Evan Ingram. Like, it should be enough. It should be enough. And I don't think that the quarterback or the receivers have really been the primary problem so far. I think that Lawrence has had some tough breaks and has made some amazing throws and can obviously play. That's kind of been my stance. But it's a new play caller, I think. Who was their play caller last year? I think it's a new guy. And I just don't know if I'll have to dive into this offense a little bit more, and maybe we can talk about them a little bit more on the Wednesday episode, because I started tuning in the second half when the offense started to get going a little bit more. They kind of started to force feed ETN and the running backs, and were able to get some things going when they just made it like, let's get the ball in the playmakers' hands, just quickly. That started to work a little bit for them, but with the line this bad and still some questionable receivers out there or receiver depth, it isn't a powerhouse in Jacksonville like I thought it would be.
It's not a powerhouse, but like,
and their special teams allowed
is Jamal Agnew getting like crucial targets on them not having enough receivers, or is it on them for like not finding ways to get the ball in the hands of the guys that are elite? Like, they have Christian Kirk, they have Calvin Ridley. You shouldn't need to give Agnew 5 targets a game, like 4 catches a game.
Sometimes you do, like that's the pressure, especially when the line is bad. You've got to read the defense, and if the linebackers make a specific move, you've got to throw it behind them, and sometimes that's Agnew in the slot. Like
I think that's like a total non-problem, to be completely honest with you.
Agnew
if you can't handle your wide receiver 3 not being a positive, I just don't know. Like, you're cooked.
Yeah, I don't think that it's a huge excuse. I'm just saying, for as hyped up as the receiving core was, and as excited as I was about like the big 3 of Ingram and Ridley and Kirk, and I still think the Jaguars can put more points on the board with this exact same unit as like in the future. Like, it's not going to be a slog like this for the whole year, I hope. But I think that the wide receiver play, I think they could just use better depth still.
Maybe,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, the Bengals, like, who's their third option?
Tyler Boyd,
like the best third option.
Like, how many targets is Boyd getting a game?
I don't know. But like, who is their tight end? And their tight end could use some work in
So it's like
Cincinnati.
not everyone's,
and that's the
not
same
everyone's
thing.
third or fourth receiving option is going to be.
I know. I'm just saying, it's not a perfect receiver group.
It's the blonde boy's fault. That's all I know.
I don't think that it's King. It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Look, as with all teams that are underperforming, the whiffs have started to stack up.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it comes down to. It's like you just whiffed one too many times on the offensive line. It's not that you didn't invest. It's that those investments didn't pay off.
And Anton Harrison got hurt, and his backup was getting cooked. There's a pick that Lawrence threw. I think he was targeting Agnew, but they ran a stunt. The Texans did, and that tackle just really went with the first guy. This guy looping around had a pretty clear shot on Lawrence. It was 3rd and medium. He had to force the ball, and it was intercepted. So if Anton Harrison can't go, I don't know who that tackle was, to be completely honest with you, but he was not good.
It's like Cole Van something.
Oh,
yeah. There was a lot of bad offensive line play. A lot of bad offensive line play.
There's some liabilities out there for Jackson. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. With the Eagles, obviously, they didn't have a great receiver unit after their top 2, but I don't think that they had like a stone cold, like someone that you don't even trust to hold on to the ball. And that's what Jamal Agnew is. Like, he is a real negative, I
think the Eagles, Quez Watkins.
I'm taking Quez Watkins over
this
Jamal
is going to be start bench cut, Quez Watkins, Jamal Agnew.
Good. The links they will go to make excuses for their golden boys is disgusting and filthy.
Herbert almost lost today, by the way. Speaking of golden boys, they were one goal line stand away from losing this game, and Herbert was 40 for 47. And I almost kind of wish it happened so I could go on the ultimate not his fault offensive.
So this is fucked up, Theo. You would rather see your golden boy lose just so you can defend him more than you would rather see him win.
It would just really drive the point home if he had such a good, like, historically good game and lost. I'm not worried about you. I don't care what the stats say, man. Trevor has been balling.
I think what drives the point home is if he plays well and they win.
That drives the point home too, as long as he plays well. And of course, he's always been playing well, so it should be a given that Justin Herbert plays well because he's good. And same thing with Trevor Lawrence. I think I really just, when I'm assigning blame, I feel like I'm harping too much on the receiving core. Like, the offensive line is the biggest problem. There are a couple liabilities that still get playing time out wide. The pass rush just doesn't have a real dominant winner. And the secondary is Tyson Campbell did not play his best game. And the secondary was pretty weak last year and is maybe a little bit better, but not massively improved. And that's my like overall stance on the Jaguars.
I can't hate it. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I stand by the offensive line being a disaster as a killer. And the strong units of this defense can be a little hard to find. It's very hot and cold, their pass rush.
Mm-hmm. They run a lot of sim pressures. Like, they'll drop guys, and that's what Trayvon Walker gives you, is someone who can kind of hold up doing that. And they'll send blitz, like creative blitzes. And so some games, the pass rush gets home a bunch of times, but I feel like in others, you need a real just one-on-one winner. And this was a game where no one came through.
We've got NFL and college football both in full swing, and I know you're all trying to go see your favorite teams in action very, very soon. Theo's going to be seeing Colorado and USC. Matt's going to be seeing Ohio State, Penn State. I might be seeing Ohio State, Penn State. These are games that are all possible through the Game Time app. You might think you can find the best price elsewhere, but really, if you want to get the best price on the best tickets, even at last minute, you can day before, doesn't matter. Game Time has them, and that is why they're the fastest growing ticketing app out there right now. You can get flash deals and last minute tickets, and not even for just sports games, not even just for football. You can do it for concerts. You can do it for comedy shows. You can do it for literally any event you can imagine in any city you're trying to go to. Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals across all events. So why don't you head on over, snag some tickets without the stress with Game Time, and download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code STAYHOT so you can get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code STAYHOT for $20 off. You're already getting the best price, and now you can get $20 off of that. You are not going to find a better deal than this. So head on over, download Game Time today, or head on over to gametime.co. Get last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. You know what other team in the same division also struggled up front?
Who would that be?
The Tennessee Titans. Their offensive line might be worse. Actually, it is worse. This offensive line is I don't think they crossed the line of scrimmage one time, like as a unit.
What do you mean they didn't cross the line of, like, they didn't pick up any yards today?
No, I mean, they picked up under 100 yards, but I'm saying, like, the offensive line did not get any push.
Oh, like they didn't move. Bad.
They were really bad. Tannehill only had 104 yards through the air. He got sacked 5 times. Derrick Henry averaged 1.8 yards per attempt. I mean, it's as bad as it gets from an offensive standpoint. And obviously the Browns are playing very well defensively, but I mean, this is by far the most suffocating performance they've had thus far. And I think more of that goes to goes towards just how bad the Titans offensive line was today. Andre Dillard had no idea what to do with Myles Garrett.
Oh my God. I can't imagine how bad that was. Andre Dillard was getting his face mask kicked in by Carl Granderson the other day, who signed a huge contract recently. Like, he's not a bad pass rusher at all, but versus Myles Garrett, that's a whole different beast. I saw him go in motion, like Schwartz was moving him around back and forth, and 2 flankers were following him around, like chasing him as he ran to the left and right side. The tight ends kept following him.
Yeah, because they had no answers. They had no answers anywhere on the offensive line, and Skoronski's out. So I mean, they've had, I think, 2 different guards, like, trying to figure out who they're going to play at that spot. Like, they just have nothing up front, and they can't do anything about it. Like, Derrick Henry's not that guy anymore where he can just, like, run through a bad offensive line. especially against this.
And neither has any running back ever. Their offensive line
Chubb.
sucks, so their run game is bad.
Nick Chubb can run through a bad offensive line.
What are we talking
Not
about?
anymore,
When has he
he
had a bad
can't.
offensive line?
You don't stop. His rookie year, the offensive line wasn't great. So
What about Watson? So the Browns put up 27, which is not typical for them under the Watson in the Watson era. How do you look today? Did he look? Is this the sharpest that he's been?
That's not saying much, but yes.
No, it's not.
The ball was getting out a little bit quicker. The timing was a little bit better.
In the wrong direction. No.
He did make that one throw.
I didn't. To be completely honest, I didn't watch this game, but I'm surprised to hear it's his sharpest game after.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought this was going to be a really bad offensive performance after that play. I was like, "Good God, we cannot. This cannot be it." But he turned it around. Timing was a lot better. Hitting Cooper in stride. Getting to the top of his drop and actually getting the ball out. And when he was like escaping, he was actually able to find guys a lot of times. He wasn't just like 5 extra seconds to take an even worse sack. So yeah, I thought the offense was better, although they were mildly bailed out by the Titans having another unit, which may also be the worst in the league, which is their secondary. I mean, their corners are horrible. They don't turn their heads ever.
It's a thin unit. It's very thin unit.
We knew it was bad, but I mean, they were either they straight up wouldn't turn their head. So it was either a pass interference or a holding because they had no idea where the ball was, or they let up a completion because again they have no idea where the ball is. Like, so a lot of the Browns' success through the air, I think, is due to just playing maybe the worst secondary in the NFL right now. I mean, the Browns' last touchdown, it was just a straight up go route, and he just split 2 DBs that were guarding him, and they just like let him run by. Like, there was no one there. He just ran right by them, and it was a touchdown. It's just embarrassing to watch. I mean, the Browns were good on offense. I thought Kevin Stefanski had a more creative rushing attack to try and like combat the fact they were going against Tier Tard and Jeffrey Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
So like there were some good things from the Browns offense, and I don't want to take that away. But the Titans defense, especially in their secondary, just no good.
I don't know how they beat the Chargers last week. I really don't. I mean, the fact that this Titans offense has just looked absolutely incapable of moving the football weeks 1 and 3, and week 2 was hitting multiple like 50-yard bombs down the field. They did complete a few downfield shots. They had one to Hopkins and one to, I don't even know, number 11, whatever Chris Moore. I kind of like Chris Moore. Chris Moore has some dog in him, man. Chris Moore, when I watched the Texans last year, I liked Chris Moore, and he's had 2 nice catches in the last 2 games. As far Keelan Cole is like borderline out of the league, maybe my new random like 5th string wide receiver.
Okay.
There's nothing random about Chris Moore.
There's nothing random about
Keelan Cole. Ohio State,
Cincinnati legend, Chris Moore.
Okay. No way. I have no idea. I kind of like Chris Moore though.
Yeah, it was a hell of a play he had.
Yeah, no. So they have some dog, like they can make some plays here and there, but like on a consistent down to down basis, they have nothing.
I'm definitely taking Chris Moore over Jamal Agnew and Quez Watkins.
Oh man,
I think I might start bench cut.
Did you ever decide who you thought was better between Mo Alley Cox and Austin Hooper?
I think I said Mo Alley Cox because I thought that there was some blocking aspect to him. And for a second tight end, like if you're in 12 personnel, I feel like that's probably the most important thing.
Hooper was washed in Cleveland, so I agree.
Yes, Hooper's a better route runner. He's better in and out of his breaks. but he's not a blocker like Mo Alley Cox is. So as a depth piece at tight end, like give me Mo Alley Cox over Austin Hooper. That was my take on the situation.
The real new Keelan Cole is Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's the correct.
He's too good. He's like fallen off if he's Keelan Cole.
I guess
he's
that's
supposed to be like,
he is good.
I don't know. Chris Moore is the new Keelan Cole for me. But anyway, enough about Cleveland, Tennessee. I do not wish to speak of this game anymore.
You don't wish to speak of it. Fine. Do you want to talk about the Chargers? Because they almost lost.
They did almost lose.
So that you can pretend they lost and defend Herbert, saying it's not his fault.
That was a little crazy, wasn't it?
It is a little. It's just
well,
crazy.
He won today. He had a great game. Look, they really heated him up because it's Brian Flores. And then they play zone behind it because they don't have the corners to play man. And that's just the recipe for a Keenan Allen play. Like, get the ball out quickly and exploit zone coverage. And boy, did he. Like, they got the ball out to him in the flat a bunch of times. He was able to make guys miss a little bit. I don't know how he looks a little faster than he did last year. I thought that he wasn't moving well at all last season, and I thought that the hamstring injury took him a suspiciously long time to get back from. I'll always remember the play against the Colts where they hit him in stride, and he had like eons to cut up the sideline and couldn't do it. He stepped out. I feel like this year's version of Keenan Allen is healthier, stronger, moving a little bit better even at his advanced age. He's able to make some guys miss, and then this is just a really good matchup for him.
At his advanced age is crazy terminology.
He is. He's an old receiver.
Yeah, but you don't have to say advanced age.
It is advanced for a receiver.
I don't think advanced age is a derogatory term.
No, I say that with a lot of respect.
Okay.
He plays, and yeah, this was just a really good matchup. I feel like for him, it's like blitz with zone behind it. Like that is just. Mm-hmm. There's no receiver you'd rather have than like Keenan Allen for that type of defense, and 18 catches, 200 something yards. I mean, I think that's the proof is in the pudding.
Right. Can't do much better than that. And Herbert, 40 for 47, 400 yards. 3
and Herbert's a bad quarterback to do it against because he would love to just spit it out quickly. Like he's not. Yes, he would
love to just try to pick apart.
He would
a little zone. 7 air yards at a time.
He would. He did it today. Why are you shaking your head?
It's just not real football. It just isn't.
Not real football.
No.
You sound like Barry McCockiner breaking down a Tom Brady performance.
It's just any throw under 10 yards sucks.
But real truth.
What did you guys think about Staley's?
I didn't watch the game close enough to have a schematic take on the Chargers defense versus what they've done differently these last 2 weeks. I thought that their defensive front played a lot better, and it's pretty easy against this Vikings offensive line. This was kind of a get right game for their front seven, it felt like, where they were able to kind of bottle that up. I thought that Kirk wasn't super accurate. He was clearly very frustrated on the sidelines. Like there was a little bit of the season is over and we got to save it. And we didn't feel for the Vikings this week. And for especially Kirk and the interactions when he got to the sideline with Stefanski were all pretty hostile, it seemed like. And I'll have to rewatch this one. I didn't have full attention on this game, so I couldn't really tell you what the Staley scheme was. I don't know if you had any takes on it.
I'm in about the play call at the end.
Oh, to go for it. I like it. That's what I would do in Madden.
I think it was wrong from the sense that, like, if you don't get it, it's a disaster. It's classic Staley. And if you do, you're not going to really get credit for it. I think I might have just punted and avoided the whole slightly better dice roll analytics stuff. It didn't end up mattering.
Didn't they hand it to a fullback or an alternate running back type figure?
I think so, yeah.
Herbert, plunged up the middle. That's probably what I don't agree. Put the ball in Herbert's hands. He completed so many today. Why are you relying on one of your non-Eckler running backs? Why are you trying to put the game in the hands of your interior offensive lineman instead of Herbert and Keenan Allen? But I'm 4th and 1. I'm kind of always down to go for it, man. It's a yard.
If you can't get a yard, you don't belong.
And the way their defense has performed, I would rather bank on the Chargers offense getting a yard than the Chargers defense getting a stop for any length of drive. They're dead last in every metric by far. So I kind of got it, honestly. But they stopped them on a short field, and good for them for that, because my glorious King Herbert couldn't have started 0-3 playing as well as he has these first 3 games.
Kirk Cousins, he can start 0-3. And he hasn't been playing that bad either.
No. It's just tough. The defense just doesn't have the personnel. They got number 91 out there, Tony Jones III. He's terrible, dude. And the run fits last week really got him in trouble. Ivan Pace has been a good pass rusher, and he's been really quick to recognize screens and things and come downhill. But you get him mugged up in the A gap versus
it's ugly
Dickerson.
Stuff, dude. This is why I haven't been posting about it that much, man. For the record, it's nasty. I mean, you send somebody at him, and I'm afraid it's just he's going to be where he's going to be. It's not. Right. It's not working.
If there's a play where they combo a non-Harrison Phillips Viking and climb, it's going to be a successful play for the offense. And Harrison Phillips is not always on top of it. And then behind him, you've got, guys, a Caleb Evans dropping picks and that turning into touchdowns for the offense.
Yeah.
The safeties are not, I like Bynum, but number 44 is no good. And, safeties are just corners if the receiver goes a different direction. So they got to be up to snuff in coverage. And their guys are.
They're the safety net. Last line of defense.
Right. So Cousins can be 0-3, but it's just not a good Vikings team. They've got good weapons. Addison was worth the hype. Jefferson is obviously incredible. Hawkinson is nice. I think Josh Oliver is one of the most underrated skill position players in the league. I'll say that as well. He had an incredible catch today and is one of the best blocking tight ends. I love me some Josh Oliver. But when you can't run the ball and you can't really do anything on defense, yes, they have the number one thing that moves the needle, but it just hasn't been quite enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. And when you're not winning all of the one-score games playing like this, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know how Viking fans legitimately argued to me that their team got better this offseason.
Delusion. That's how.
It's absolutely delusional. And the amount of comments I said, they were like, we gained everybody and lost nobody. It's how badly do they miss that one PFF highly graded?
The Browns have half of their defensive line from last year. What are we talking?
Yeah, seriously. They have all their good defensive linemen. And what was that guy's name? The corner. I think he went to LA, the Rams. It doesn't matter. But when he left, that was an underrated loss for them. Patrick Peterson even was getting up there in age, but who replaced him that was better? Not really anybody. The offensive line is
Vikings should trade for Pat Surtain. That's
still horrible. They need more than Pat Surtain. They need a new slate. The Cousins era, I think, is coming to an end. Maybe the Jets will trade for him.
Hey, Sauce and Pat Surtain. on the same field, or are you talking about Kirk Cousins?
I'm talking about Cousins. I'm talking about
honestly,
the Vikings don't need Surtain. I think they just need a new era of football. I think by the time this defense gets right, Kirk Cousins is probably going to be like out of his prime, right? Like there's no.
Oh yeah.
Like the timeline it's okay to reset this thing, and I think Flores and O'Connell can be decent coaches. They just don't have talent on either side of the ball.
The Jets getting Kirk Cousins, that would move things for me. Andy Dalton doesn't move it for me. Kirk Cousins would get me excited.
Anyone's better than Zach Wilson today. He played awful.
They would have won today with Andy Dalton.
They probably would have.
Maybe. The Patriots defense is outstanding.
It is outstanding, but Zach was making it super easy for them. And in the press conference, they asked him why they still start Wilson, and he's like, he's our best option. And it's true. Like Tim Boyle is behind Zach Wilson. It's over, and there's no one in free agency. Like Carson Wentz,
just give Tim Boyle number 12, and then you have TB12 out there. It's okay.
Oh. That's their best hope. This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Now, I know you're all huge baseball fans out there, and I'm looking at the app now. You can bet Aaron Judge higher or lower than 10 fantasy points. I know everything about Aaron Judge, and he hits home runs more than anybody. So I know that's going to be higher. Jordan Alvarez, 8.5 fantasy points. He's on my fantasy baseball team, so it's got to be higher. I build a few of those out, get some multiplayers, and I can turn $5 into more than $5 if all my picks hit. And if you're not a baseball fan for whatever reason, that's not a problem because they've got NFL, FIFA, tennis, PGA, WNBA, esports, racing, all sports we love to cover on this podcast, all sports you can bet on the Underdog Fantasy app. So check it out. They've got whatever it is you are an expert in. You can make it happen on that app, and they will double your first deposit when you use the code Stay Hot. That's all one word, Stay Hot. They will make $50 $100 by adding another $50. They will make $75 $150 if you put in 75. Now there is a limit. You can't put in $1 million and they'll give you $1 million. There's otherwise a $100 deposit cap. So anything between $0 and $100, they will double in your account. So download the Underdog Fantasy app. Use code Stay Hot.
Speaking of hope, Theo, you turned off the Packers game because you thought there was no hope. But Matt trudged on and watched them come back and beat the Saints down. What was it, 17-0? How did they do it?
The receivers have good hands. They've got some talent. They're a baby unit right now. Dobbs is young, Reed is young, but they made 2 incredible catches against tight man coverage down the stretch. It seems like they stopped shooting themselves in the foot. That's honestly why I turned the game off early. It was a ton of pre-snap penalties, putting themselves behind the sticks to an insane degree. They allowed a punt return touchdown. Special teams issues and stupid mental errors has kind of been a recurring theme during the Matt LaFleur era for the Packers. And honestly, for the whole Aaron Rodgers era, it didn't really seem like when they got off to those kinds of starts, they ever turned it around. And that's why I turned it off. Like the Packers are always prone to getting like blown out as good as they were. And it kind of felt like a game where a blowout was brewing, but they were resilient. They kept being aggressive against man coverage, and eventually it started to pay off for them after Alontae Taylor played pretty much a masterclass until the last drive.
Yeah, Taylor played a hell of a game. I disagree about the receivers having great hands, though. There were several key drops that game.
Yes. Their receivers can make big plays. That's what I should say. They have the potential to come down with some spectacular ones. I feel like Jaden Reed has some bad drops in college, and it has been at the beginning of the season. But man, that catch at the end was out of this world good. And same thing with the Dobbs catch. So it's like, I shouldn't say that it was great hands all the way around, but the receivers have the ability to go up against some good corners and beat them. And we didn't see it until like the last drive of the game, but we did see it. There were some flashes.
Hey.
And I agree. That's what I thought of the Packers passing offense. It's kind of just flashes one way or the other, and sometimes it takes a little bit for it to come together on both ends. Like Jordan Love missed a couple of really tough throws, tough as in he really should have made them. Obviously, the one to Musgrave up the seam where he just airmailed it, but a couple of other ones too. That was a great
read too. That was an awesome read, but his deep ball consistency is not quite there right now.
No, it's not. And for a lot of the game, it was just underneath stuff the entire time and not pushing the ball at all. And when he started to be aggressive, like, yeah, there were some drops and yeah, there were some throws that maybe could have been picked, but you pretty much always take the aggressiveness over underneath. So I just think it was sort of a mindset change, and then the plays came together for him. And the Saints offense is terrible.
And Carr got hurt.
And Carr got hurt. Yeah, they probably pulled that one out if Carr.
Mm-hmm. Gary is a beast. He had a bunch of sacks, 3 on the day.
He had one, that bull rush.
Killed Ramczyk. He's extremely nice, and so is Kenny Clark. They've both had some big games.
Kenny, the first drive, dude. Kenny Clark's first sack in that game was ridiculous, man.
The Packers have some big stars on defense, man, and I think that the fact that they're 2-1 right now is really encouraging because Bakhtiari has been missing so much. He's missed 2 of the 3 games. Watson, all 3. Aaron Jones, 2 out of the 3. Elton Jenkins has been out. Like, they are missing all of their best offensive weapons, all of them. And they've got half of their cap space sitting out, and the other half is dead money from the Rodgers deal. The team they're fielding is so unbelievably cheap. Like, they are the brokest team in the league on Sundays.
You're going to have to sell a lot of fake stocks here, folks.
When you watch the Packers, you are watching a team that the average well-off business owner could afford to pay. And they're still 2-1, and they lost their one game by 1.
This team.
You're right. We could, and that's kind of what gets me excited about the Packers is they've got some dog in them. Jordan Love up the sideline, staying in bounds to create that big play. That was awesome. He never slides. He's kind of got that Josh Allen gene in him where he's like you shouldn't cut back, but he does. And you should go to bounds, but he doesn't. And he'll try some crazy things. And yeah, I felt that there's been a lot of resilience these first 3 weeks to overcome all these injuries and to come back this week after blowing it last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Carr has avoided major injury.
Nice.
That's always good to hear. Now, we do have another blowout to talk about before we get to our Little Caesars game of the week. And that is the 49ers and Giants on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah. I'm extremely concerned about the Giants. They're a little Broncos-y to me. Their defense, like if they were to go up against the Dolphins, they might allow 60 as well. It just looks terrible. They don't look well coached. Like, I don't want to put anybody on the hot seat, but like Wink Martindale especially, I feel like is doing a poor job right now. Just doesn't look like all these units are moving simultaneously. Like when the ball gets snapped, it doesn't necessarily look like everybody is getting the ball or like off the ball at the exact same time, like going to the same place, like with a consistent vision. It kind of feels like everybody's just kind of out there winging it. The only way that they can create negative plays for the offense is their 2 interior linemen winning one-on-ones. So really all they've got is like get in a bear front and hope Dexter Lawrence or Leonard Williams does something cool. But their secondary is just not up to par to win one-on-ones right now. Their safeties are awful. Their linebackers aren't good either. Their edge rushers have been bad. Kayvon has not been good. Jihad Ward has been starting for them like versus the 49ers, and he played a terrible game. It's just not inspiring stuff. The pass rush paths are really uncreative to me. They're just kind of like picking a gap and just charging into it without the same kind of like deadly efficiency of the stunts and the games that some of these other defensive coordinators run. When they do run them, like they look really ugly and bad, and everything looks really ugly and bad. And Purdy didn't even play a very good game, and the 49ers still put up 30. Like, this defense has already gone against some like a sharp offense at Dallas and gotten lit up, and the Cardinals did a good job against them. And like, I think that you could put a 50 burger on this Giants defense, like if you really locked in and you were a good offense, like pretty easily, despite as good as the interior of the defensive line is. Like, they just don't have it to me.
Yeah.
Yep. I got to agree. Offensive line's horrible. 49ers pass rush obviously is going to kill that. Defense is nowhere near as talented. I just don't think there's enough units on this team that are above average talent-wise.
And I feel like coaching has taken a step back instead of a step forward. Even Daboll and his play calling, I feel like, hasn't been as money, clearly. I mean, they scored 0 points, and then they needed a second half comeback against the Cardinals. And then, obviously, against the 49ers, it was pretty rough as well.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, trying to scrape by on play calling alone will only get you so far. Like, especially going from game to, like, for last season, it worked. But coming into this year, you know, you needed to just be
don't
more,
have any talent.
You're just not good enough. Like, and eventually that's going to catch up with you.
Yeah, they were really close in 1-score games. They got lucky, and for me to, I'm totally out on them now. I thought maybe that they were ascending, that Daniel Jones maybe had another gear that could be unlocked, that maybe the offensive line would play better, or Kayvon could take a leap. And like, I was like, Banks, he's good for, like, if any rookie corner is going to be playing like tight man coverage, I'm glad that it's Banks. But yeah, it's all super bad right now, and they look bad on paper, and they look bad on the field.
That Daniel Jones contract looks awful.
Yeah, the GM has done a really poor job, I feel like, drafting the contracts they gave out this year, like not addressing certain units, and adding, like, I don't know, who did they add? Paris Campbell. I can think of other. Like,
you had to look through everything. You had to look through everything through the lens of, like, well, the Giants won 11 games last year, and they won a playoff game, and the passing offense was pretty good. So now it's like anything is an upgrade at receiver, but they still are weak at receiver. They're still one of the weakest teams at receiver, and no matter what, that's a huge detriment and almost impossible for most teams to overcome. It's really tough to be bad at receiver and make it work. So if you judged this team in a vacuum in the preseason, I think you could have seen a lot of the talent deficits having the potential to come get them, I guess.
Yeah, no, they look terrible. I'm out on them. I think that they're going to give up some really bad defensive. I'm especially out on the defense, is what I would say. And maybe they just need more time to gel. But like Pinnock, like, get this guy out of here, dude. He's just awful. He's just terrible. And it's like they have no one on the roster better. And when you've got situations like that where someone is just clearly one of the worst starters in the league, and like he's on your defense, like, good defenses usually don't have players like that.
Right. But a good defense And our Little Caesars game of the week, our hot and ready game of the week, the Cardinals came in hot and ready against the Dallas Cowboys, and they beat them pretty handedly. 28 points. Mm-hmm. Man, 28-16, 2-possession victory. I think the big thing that we have to take away is that this is now the third game in a row where the Cardinals have not played that bad.
They're kind of like the Giants from last year.
They played a good game against Washington. They had a lead against the Giants last week, and they probably should have won that game. And then this week they take a lead against Dallas, and they're able to hold it in the second half. They're not that bad.
They're not that bad. I feel like on defense, the lack of talent certainly shows up. You can go at these corners. Number 13 is going to be one of the most targeted players in all of football at the end of the year, and going at him is going to be fruitful. Same with Marco Wilson. Like, there's just a lack of high-end talent on the team that was always going to prevent them from being super contenders. But on the offensive side of the ball, they have got a bit of juice, and the offensive line, I think, has played pretty well.
Yeah, Paris Johnson.
Their tight ends have played pretty well, Ertz and McBride.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get in 12 personnel, they're actually able to protect all right. And they don't send too many people out into routes, but the guys they are sending into routes are Marquise Brown and, Ertz and Rondell Moore. And those guys can make things happen. And Dobbs has been a distributor. And if it's not there, he is not afraid to use his legs. And it hasn't been the worst formula.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the defense is the defense, but offensively, if Dobbs is, managing the game properly, it's not any sort of major like, well, this is such a disaster that we can't possibly move the ball. If you want to come out in 12 personnel a lot and just block well and try to run the ball efficiently and, turn the ball over and so and so and so, yeah, you can get some wins doing that.
Paris Johnson Jr. has had a decent start to his rookie campaign. He hasn't been an absolute liability by any means. He hasn't been like an Evan Neal level, like apparent that he can't move around type bust. He's definitely been beaten plenty of times. But overall, I feel like Froholt, the guy from Europe, their center, he's been kind of a diamond in the rough that they found. They were able to contain Micah Parsons for the most part today. What is it? Humphreys on the other side. Like, he's a good left tackle. I like their left guard a bit as well. Like, it's enough. It's enough to get the job done. And I'm also concerned about the Cowboys defense without Trayvon Diggs. I feel like he really had a fear factor that couldn't be ignored. And when I was looking through the data and how little his side was thrown to last year, it really became apparent that, like, social media doesn't respect Trayvon Diggs, but like the NFL does. And with Deron Bland out there, they were able to go at him and have success. And then Gilmore allowed over 100 yards last week and also allowed some big plays again this week. And he's a 33-year-old corner. So the corners are a little weak. The linebackers are really bad. And just in coverage, when the pass rush doesn't get home, there's just not a lot of star power anymore on the second and third level. In fact, I would say there's more like bad than good on those two levels for this defense right now.
Which is odd because their safeties they were supposed to have, that was supposed to be like the big depth area on this team, was how deep they were in that back end.
They play a lot of them, but it's like, are any of these guys real difference makers? They've got Hooker, who has not been very good as the high player when they go single high. He's taken some bad angles. He's allowed some touchdowns. I think it was off of play action near the end of the first half. Am I thinking of it right? Where they they ran Michael Wilson, the rookie, across the formation, and I think it was Hooker's responsibility, and it was just a total blown coverage. He was wide open down the field. They've got number 14 who will sub in as a second linebacker when they're in nickel, and is number 14 a good, like a positive? It's kind of cool that they're hybrid and they play all these safeties instead of being in traditional personnels, but like, are these safeties really huge positives?
The Patriots do a lot of the same thing, but it works for them. So
yeah, because they've got Duggar and they've got Gonzalez and they've got Bentley, who's better than any of the linebackers that the Cowboys have. Like, they've just got better players.
Yeah.
And like at the back end, the Cowboys don't have another All-Pro, and I feel like you've got to have a couple All-Pros at a couple of different levels to truly be a great defense. Like the Jets have Quinnen and Sauce,
right,
and DJ Reed, and it's like the Cowboys don't have. They have Micah and they have they have Lawrence, but overall, they do.
They have.
They
didn't have them today.
The other difference maker, you know.
Yeah. So I think it's a huge injury, and Diggs is boom or bust, and he has had some embarrassing reps. And even last year when he charted pretty well, like there were still plenty of embarrassing reps, but teams kind of decided that it wasn't really worth it to run it at him or throw anything at him. Yeah. And now it's way easier to run quick game because there's a whole side of the field that you weren't really getting the ball out quickly towards before. And now that is all opened up with Bland. And Bland had he's a good athlete and he had some great moments last year, I thought, but he's inconsistent. And today was one of the bad days. It was not off to a good start.
Yeah. I do think you have to give Gannon some credit because the Cardinals last year, like I'm not even schematically, just like from a energy perspective, like this team, I just felt like had no fire last year, even when they had Kyler. And now, they don't have Kyler Murray, they don't have Budda Baker, but they just look like a much more energized, a much more like we're going to play for each other type of team. And they just like didn't have that.
They got
before.
That fire in their gut.
They
took the bus to practice. So, yeah, I like the Cardinals. They've been kind of a pleasant surprise. So I picked them to go 2-15. So they were bound to,
of course,
bound to show a little bit of promise.
They got that fire, so they're hot and ready, man. Yeah, they got the 2-15 bit. Oh my god,
they did.
So they're gonna make the playoffs, and but they do play in like an insane division.
Doesn't look so insane. Seahawks don't look unbeatable.
Yeah, they could be okay. So they could. So here's how this is gonna play out, right? The Niners are going to win it. Get still. Injured. Oh, the Rams are gonna continue to play well. And then we could get 3 teams from the West in, and the third team is the Cardinals. That's not.
Wait, so who's missing it?
Seahawks.
Oh, I see.
Stafford's
all 4 NFC West teams making it would be pretty awesome.
That would be hilarious.
I'm rooting for that outcome after.
It's not unthinkable. I mean,
I would be pretty surprised, but
one team from the South, one team from the North, that all kind of works out. And then the East, the Eagles, I guess.
Well, we already know that the Cardinals are better than the Cowboys.
Right. So if it comes down to a wild card.
The Giants and Washington aren't making it.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it comes down to like a tiebreaker between Dallas and Arizona's getting in. So there we go. So there we go.
It is clear. It has all become clear.
It is all become clear. Well, I think that's all we have for this episode. I know there's a few games we didn't talk about, but we will make sure that we hit on them. Let us know in the comments what games you really want us to talk about on the next episode. And we'll also try and do better on the Stay Hot Locks next episode. But we have got a couple live streams coming up for you, so stay tuned for that. Those will be on our YouTube channel. But until then, Thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, we will catch you on the flippity flop.